Hi, everybody. This is Dawn Mitchell, and welcome to Dawn of Sports. This week, it's hot, it's steamy, I know, here in Minnesota, but we're going to be talking ice hockey. WCHA Commissioner Michelle McAteer is here. We're going to keep the hot stove hockey talk going and also give the love to the women who deserve it. Coming up. Okay, with no further ado, I'm introducing Michelle McAteer. Michelle, thanks for joining us. I know it's the off season, but you got to be getting crazy now. I mean, with everything starting up, September is going to be rolling in fast. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me.
So it's been about a year since you have been named commissioner. And you and I were talking before the podcast how it sounds like such a heady title. Like, how do you wrap your brain around it? You said your whole first year, it was like drinking out of a fire hose. How can you tell the listeners how you first came? I know that you were the head coach at Augsburg. You're a Duluth product, an assistant for the Bulldogs, and then 14 years at Augsburg. But how does one become a commissioner?
Yeah, it was definitely something that I didn't know I even wanted to aspire to become. It seemed like one of those just lofty pedestal type jobs that you just didn't realize it. And in truth, there aren't many commissioner jobs. You know, there's only, I think, 7 total across Division I hockey, men's and women's. So it is few and far between. But I've been really fortunate to have my whole career in women's hockey, essentially. You know, I played at Minnesota Duluth, like you mentioned, and then got into coaching right away and was a grad assistant at Duluth, and then an assistant at Harvard, and then an assistant back at Duluth, and then at Augsburg for 14 years. So to be in collegiate women's hockey for my entire career, you get to know the landscape. And then I certainly was aware of the commissioner. Didn't necessarily know what they did. Mm-hmm. I just knew that it was someone who got to really advocate for women's hockey. And so the more experience that I got, the more that I realized, well, why couldn't I do that? And, having a diverse resume, especially being on the Division III side. So, knowing hockey, knowing the game, knowing the women's hockey community, and then having some administrative experiences, really that blend was fortunately enough to be considered for this position.
I love talking to especially women hockey players where I think, would you ever have guessed that young Michelle, who first laced up the skates, would be the WCHA commissioner? Like, it's mind-blowing in a way.
Yeah. And one of the best parts of my job is going into every single rink, being on campus for all of our member schools. So when I get to visit Duluth and I run into some of the people who are still there that I knew when I was a player, I'm like, can you imagine 18-year-old little Mac, like in this role? And it is comical because you certainly don't envision that when you're a teenager and your teammates. The same way as teammates, you don't envision your teammates being parents one day. You don't. Right. You can't imagine yourself grown up in any sense of the word. I didn't imagine it, but I'm certainly grateful for the opportunity now.
Where did you fall in love with the game of hockey? When did you start playing? Growing up, was it in the culture around you? How did it start?
Yeah, I grew up in Toronto, and I have 2 older brothers. One was an Irish dancer.
Really?
Yeah.
That's awesome. He was a step dancer?
Yeah, he was in the original cast of Riverdance.
Stop it.
Yeah, he was a big deal. And and then my other brother played hockey, and I actually started doing both as a kid. I did everything that my brothers did. And they switched one night where it basically moved hockey to my dancing night, and I had to choose. So that was my sliding doors moment. And I obviously chose hockey. But the reason I got into hockey was because I wanted a chocolate bar at the snack bar, and my dad would buy me one. So I would.
It's the Milky Way sliding doors moment.
Exactly. So following my brothers around and being in the rinks, and then started playing and growing up, that was the 80s, and women's hockey, girls hockey wasn't booming yet. So I played in the Scarborough Sharks organization, and And, they didn't even have split division. So I think I was like 6 playing with 9 and 10-year-olds because that was really kind of the early days for girls hockey.
I love how you say it was the sliding doors moment. Do you ever allow yourself to think, what if I picked, the dancing instead?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I certainly, it wasn't much of a choice. I think if you look back at,
well, there was chocolate involved.
Yeah, there
so,
was some sweet treat bribes, but I think it was an obvious choice. Just knowing my personality, I think I was definitely more drawn to sports and athletics. But I mean, I'm grateful I had that opportunity as well. I mean, I danced with some, friends growing up, and those were great memories, adorable pictures. But I'm pretty confident I chose the right path.
I have that line from Talladega Nights now in my brain. What do I do with my hands? Straight. Keep
Exactly.
Straight. Right?
That is Irish dancing too. Yes, that's it for sure.
What made you pick Duluth?
I was a senior in high school, and I was actually on the East Coast, and I went to a prep school. I left Toronto and got recruited to go play hockey at a prep school. So I was at Lawrence Academy in Massachusetts, and yes, and
sorry. Little shout out.
And at that time, all the powerhouses were on the East Coast. Northeastern was a powerhouse. UNH was really good. St. Lawrence was really good. The Ivy League schools. So I was on the East Coast and surrounded by a lot of strong Division I programs. But I got a call from Duluth, and the head coach, Shannon Miller, was the coach of the '98 Olympic team. And I'm a Canadian kid. And so that was a dream come true to get a call from, the former Canadian Olympic coach. And so that really drew me to visit Duluth. And then just the idea of being part of something new, and was certainly a risk. And I know my teammates thought I was crazy to take that risk, and they thought it was a big mistake. And, I followed my gut on that one, and it worked out pretty well because we were really successful. We won 3 national championships. And I won my first national championship as a sophomore. And, my high school teammates didn't experience the same success.
Yeah. Not everyone can say, first of all, they've won one, let alone what you have won. So to be on that ground floor of building what has become just a stalwart, successful program for women's hockey, you have to take pride in that as well.
Oh, yes. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was historic, and I don't know, so we had great success, but my college teammates are still my best friends. We had a reunion, this summer, and we take a lot of pride in that, and we still are super connected to the program. And I know certainly in my role now, it's a bit different, where I have to manage being an alum and also being supportive of all our member all of our member institutions. But when I put on my alum hat, I'm incredibly proud of what we accomplished at Duluth, and hope that they can add to it.
I think a lot of people don't realize when it's professional, when it is your job, like you're saying, now you're the WCHA commissioner, you can compartmentalize that. You can say, listen, and I'm not lying, all of the schools that are under my jurisdiction, they're equal. Yes, if it's my off day and someone says you want to go watch the Bulldogs up there, you want to go up to Duluth, you're like, heck yeah, you can put your alum hat on and have fun. Most people don't understand that. And we've on further, podcasts, I've explained how sometimes I call them civilians, where they don't see the business side of the sport, where you don't forget who you are. On your off day, you can do whatever you want, but you really can separate that, can't you?
Yeah. And because sports it's so relational, it's so intimate, and, you compete, but you overlap, in so many other spaces. So when you're teammates, you grow up playing together and playing against each other. And then for coaches, you spend hours in rinks together, you get meals together on the road, you work camps together. So in our sport, you have relationships with so many people in so many different programs. And so it is personal, but yes, exactly. To your point is that you can have those personal relationships, but you can't let those personal relationships affect how you administer and make decisions. That's where your professionalism comes into play. And you can you can have healthy boundaries, and you have to have healthy boundaries.
I think what I love too, kind of part and parcel with that, is you see players now like come from different countries, and they're teammates one minute, and then they have to go compete for a national team, and their roommate, now they're playing against each other, and then in a month they're going to be playing with each other again. It's that same mindset shift, but you still have to be competitive, and those are like where those cool stories are born.
Yeah, and we'll see that this coming season. Being an Olympic year, it's going to be a really exciting year for women's hockey. And, we have that exact same scenario where you'll have players who play from Finland and Sweden and US and Canada, and they may be wearing their same college jersey, and then the next weekend playing in a pre-Olympic tune-up, or in the Olympic, maybe an Olympic medal game, and then they come back for playoffs. And so, one weekend they're competing for the same dream, and then the next weekend they could be competing to crush each other's dreams, and then go back and forth. But yeah, that's the beauty of sport, and you see that for players here in Minnesota who grew up playing with each other from the same high school programs or against each other, and they can be best friends. And then the second the puck is dropped, they are ready to rip each other's heads off. And then, after the game, they're planning a suburb cabin weekend, right? So that's the best thing about sport, is that it can be so competitive and healthy when you can manage those personal relationships.
And now that there are so many successful women that are graduating from these programs, that rather than I'm going to go be a stockbroker, they're choosing to stay like you in the sport and contribute somehow, some way. And we have seen growth of women's sports, albeit it's been slow, but in the past year or so, kind of a boom that, listen, if there's eyeballs on the sport, it's going to grow. Everyone's watching women's sports, however you want to tally it, to be one of those athletes that maybe it wasn't pre-planned, but you're spending your professional career in that sport. Now you're seeing more and more women who have graduated from college programs stay in the sport. And how has that improved college hockey for women?
Yeah, I mean, it is booming. And I think, it's not, you certainly didn't think it when I was playing. I didn't even really consider being a coach as an option. And really? I was ready to be a grad assistant in sports information, actually.
Oh, okay.
And then, I got the opportunity to say, would you want to try it in coaching? And that was new at that time. But that's the best part of my job looking back, is there's so many more opportunities than what I had. And we want to continue to make sure that those opportunities are growing, because now you can play professionally, or you can work in a professional organization, whether it's coaching, whether it's, front office, business management, or social media, or marketing. There are, women's hockey is a business now, and it was more of a hobby and more of just a pastime, in the past. But now we want to continue to get people to look at women's hockey, watch women's hockey, invest in women's hockey, so that it continues to be a thriving business.
And also, women that have played hockey and become coaches, they can coach in the PWHL, they can coach in college hockey. They can also coach now in the NHL, and we're certain to see that. So it's not that you have to be a women's coach. You can follow your heart and have that open. How many women now are coaches in the WCHA?
Yeah, we're excited that we have 6 out of our 8 programs are now led by female head coaches, and 5 out of those 6 played in the WCHA. So those are historic numbers.
Yes.
That wasn't the case. Again, when I played, it was inverted. Where
exactly.
And so it's exciting that we're at this point where now the people like me and these head coaches are now products of the game, are stepping up and taking the reins and help leading.
And how important is that, right? You want to have women representing women.
Absolutely.
But you also want talent, and now you're getting both.
Yeah, exactly. And, we're proud of that, because I think every coach, if you talk to every coach, they want to win. Everyone, wants to win, and they want to compete and win titles. But at the end of the day, they want to produce great athletes, great students, great people, great leaders. Everyone's committed to holistic development. And so, we have titles in the WCHA that we brag about. We have a lot of titles. We're the most successful conference in the country. That's a fact, not a brag. It's just the numbers. But, we're just as proud as what our students achieve academically, who they become, how much they give back to the community. So there's just tremendous people in our sport. And so then, to have these tremendous people now taking the reins of their programs and being great role models, and being visible. And again, they're leading the way and showing everybody that not only can they do it, but they can also do it really well. And I think that's really exciting.
I know years ago when the men split, became Big Ten, WCHA went away, and so many people were upset.
Still upset.
Yeah.
Still upset.
The rivalries aren't there. And then they tried to kind of formulate tournaments and make the rivalries, but with schedules, it kind of makes it difficult. How important is it then? So now the burden is on the women, right? To kind of take the WCHA name, not along with the men, but just to keep those schools intact, to keep the rivalries intact and the history intact. How important is that to you?
It's really important. I mean, I think we love our league, and everyone who's been a part of it gets it and understands how good it is, and how the success of our league makes everyone better, and everyone is proud of the growth, proud of the success, proud of the history, and there's a strong desire not to change. I think if we all had our perfect world, we would say we don't want to change anything. And so we certainly emotionally feel that way, but also knowing what the men went through, we also have to peek around the corner and make sure that we are preparing so that we're preserving and doing what's best for women's hockey long term. Because also at the end of the day, that's what's most important is making sure that women's college hockey is growing and that it's becoming more financially sustainable, more profitable. So that's, I think, more important is just the game itself and the health of collegiate women's hockey. And so I think it's just understanding it's that juggling act of that we do want to preserve the history, but we also need to be continuing about our strategic plan about how we're going to grow.
Especially being the commissioner. It doesn't matter what position you're in any pro sport. If you're the one in charge, you have to keep an eye on the present and an eye on the future all at the same time. Yeah,
and learn from the past.
Right.
And so that's, I think I can't predict the future, but I think I don't expect changes, drastic changes. Just we're entering this new world of NCAA athletics, and financially there's so much uncertainty with revenue sharing and how that's going to, so I just don't see it's a time where new programs are going to be starting, especially if we're looking at some of the Big Ten schools. So, I think we're certainly thinking about it, and we're watching it, and I'm having every conversation I need to have, but, I hopefully that's a future consideration that we'll deal with when it comes.
When people think of the Freemasons, they often think of secret handshakes and unusual hats, and of course, the pancake breakfast. Minnesota Masonic Charities would prefer that you think about the work that they do right here in our community. Places like the Masonic Cancer Center at the University of Minnesota, or the Masonic Children's Hospital and the Masonic Home in Bloomington. They are just a few examples of the important work that the Freemasons support here in Minnesota. As part of the largest fraternal organization in the world, Masons have consistently answered the call when it comes to charitable needs. I am happy that Minnesota Masonic Charities has chosen Minnesota Bound and this podcast as a place to help spread the word. We look forward to learning so much more about their many programs here in the weeks to come.
And a reminder, use the promo code TALKNORTH15. You will get 15% off your orders at Natreum.com. It's Natreum. They have the mothership store in St. Louis Park. You should go over there and talk to the sales associates, figure out what works for you in your life. And then just go to Natreum.com, use the promo code TALKNORTH15, get 15% off. As I've told you, I use it for muscle pain, joint soreness, sleep aids, fun, stuff that tastes good, stuff that won't hurt you. It's all natural. It's everything from gut health to quick stress relief. They have something for you at Natreum and Natreum.com. Back to Dawn.
When you were a player too, you didn't have the transfer portals that are available now. I think women by and large don't really get the same money with nil, that's just a fact. Unless your name's Caitlin Clark when she was playing or things like that. But so many changes from when you were a player. Are there any that you wish were there when you were there that might have been another sliding doors moment for you,
Yeah. I mean, I was a third line player, so I don't think the NIL would have applied to me too much. But
maybe McDonald's though. Have a Mac with Mac.
Exactly.
You just never know.
Yeah. I mean, maybe if I had some good marketing influences in my life, I think all these new opportunities are good,
yes.
right? Meaning, again, like looking at the men who've been able to profit off of their talents for a long time. We certainly want women to have access to the same opportunities. And yes, maybe there aren't that many, but there are a few in women's hockey that I think because of their talent, their notoriety, their social media followers, they're able to profit off of that, and good for them. Mm-hmm. And I think that's exciting. That's, again, people who want to invest in our players in our league are people that we want to welcome. So. The transfer portal, I think that's just a rabbit hole of that every, coach and administrator wants, you can go down a long way. But at the end of the day, student athlete health is really important. Mental health is really important. Mm-hmm. Those are things that we talk a lot about. And it's things that you talk about, but you also have to live it. And so, it's such a short career in college. And so people have the right to be happy. So my personal opinion is, be happy. And I'm glad that you have that opportunity to pursue that.
Yeah, that's important right there, right? Maybe back in the past it was like, just suffer through.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
What has been the best, most fun, surprising aspect of this job so far in the past year that maybe you weren't expecting? They're like, oh, wow, look at this little nugget.
Oh yeah, that's a great question. Because everything I feel like has been a surprise. I think I came from coaching, and it was surprising how much I really just enjoyed being a fan at these games, and so I really loved that I got to, and I went to a lot of games. I was in rinks every weekend and watch the top collegiate hockey players in the country, and amazing hockey, great skill. And then, when the game is over, think like that was a great game and I just get to go home and I don't have to worry about video. I don't have to worry. The results don't personally impact me. So I did really enjoy that. Like that was a relief of not necessarily feeling the weight of the drive for success. So I enjoyed that. But, again, this year we had two WCHA teams in the national championship, Ohio State and Wisconsin. And I didn't like that because
it's stressful.
It was great that they got there, like the whole road there. But I remember at the end of the game, and when it was one of the most incredible games that I watched, and seeing the joy of Wisconsin and then the absolute heartbreak of Ohio State. And I really got to know both teams and got to know their coaches and know how much they personally invested into both. And so I remember leaving that game feeling like really empty, just because I was, felt like a conflicted parent.
You're like Mama Kelsey.
Exactly. I've said that before too. Yeah, like watching, and so that was surprising. So the regular season was great, but then so happy and thrilled for our league to have 2 teams in that game. But it was more emotional than I anticipated watching that game play out.
You know what I think is cool, and it's kind of sad in a way, but it's also cool in a way, that in my lifetime, I have watched women's hockey go from club sport in some colleges to D1 or D whatever that the college is. National team finally getting to go to the Olympics. You know, when I was younger growing up, there was no women's Olympic hockey team. There was only men. And then to come here and when I first got here in 2004, covered the Whitecaps, I was just thrilled. Oh, women are playing what? And then to see all the different iterations, and now the PWHL. And then to still see the growth of the college game. So from someone like me, just the journalist on the outside looking in, who's had friends play, I've never played on a hockey team. Hockey has always been one of my favorite sports from the moment I came out of the womb. I don't know why. Asked my parents for a little TV so I could watch the Bruins growing up. So I'd go, yes, and watch the goals scored. To sit back sometimes and I'd be like, wow, just to see how it has grown in my lifetime. I always say it should have grown faster. But then I always take that moment to appreciate. As a person who's ridden the wave, how do you appreciate it?
Yeah, I think same, meaning that I recognize the huge strides. And, you know, when the PWHL founded 2 years ago, I remember just sitting on my bed, edge of my bed, crying when that first game, you know, because it was so emotional, like professional women's hockey, like legit, it's here. That was overwhelming. And I was in attendance watching the Frost win their second Walter Cup this year. And that crowd was amazing. So I've certainly witnessed firsthand and how emotional and powerful it is to see where we're at. And I'm grateful for that. And even this first year, I cried when I watched a Bemidji State game that was aired on Fox Plus I'm blanking. Edit this one out. What is it?
Fox 9 Plus.
So I was crying watching a Bemidji State game on Fox 9 Plus, and because I'm like, we're on TV.
Yes.
We were never on TV. Like the men were always on TV. So I those moments hit me, and I'm like, this is cool, and I'm grateful that we're here. But at the same time, I just recognize there's still so much room for us to grow.
Yes,
and that's where I feel really lucky and inspired in my role. Is, you know, I want to keep advocating for our sport, and I want, again, more people to tune in and watch our games and see like what an incredible game it is, because that's also incredible. Just comparing the skill level now to where it was back in 99, 2000, it's a lot better now. And where I'm just out here, you know, broadcasting to anyone who listen, like, this is such a great game. And I want people to support it, because we want our Caitlin Clark moment. We want to get to that tipping point where it's now we now have household names, and, you know, we're on network TV, and now we're in, you know, national broadcasts, right? So, like, again, grateful and excited about all the strides that we've made, but certainly not satisfied, and pursuing hopefully more opportunities.
When someone says to you, wow, what does WCHA Commissioner do? What's your elevator pitch to them?
Yeah, well, I'm still figuring it out.
Everything.
Yeah.
I cry at games.
You know, I think the hockey piece is the easy piece, right? Because, you know, I'm very fortunate to be a hockey person, right? So, you know, we administer like everything that goes into the league, or the scheduling, the travel, the organizing of our officials. And I have a great staff, first of all. So I have an assistant commissioner for operations, Byron, and then a director of communications, Mackenzie. So, and we work really closely on just all the league logistics, and we have a supervisor officials, Greg Shepard. So it's working together, managing our staff, but making sure everyone's executing their roles and responsibilities. And then in season, it's you know, we review major penalties. We make sure that, you know, if there's anything that it needs to be considered for supplemental discipline, like, so there's all those weekly things that are the hockey pieces, but we manage our WCHA WCHA playoff tournament, which this year will be in St. Thomas.
Oh, that's huge. New building.
Yeah. And it's going to be, I think, for the first postseason event they're going to be hosting.
Nice.
And so we're excited about that. So it's all of that in season, and it's traveling, watching games, getting to know the student athletes, getting to know the coaches, participating in all the national issues, conversations with the NCAA, all of our partner organizations in the PWHL, in the IIHF, USA Hockey, Hockey Canada. So, and then in this off season, it's been planning, organizing, figuring out how we're going to, everything that I learned last year, now how can we do it better in terms of how we market our league. We're always looking for new sponsors, partnership opportunities. So meeting with people who have an interest in supporting women's hockey and helping the game grow. And so we have so it's building those relationships. We're working on a strategic plan. We're working with our media outlets so that we can hopefully highlight and tell our stories. So it's all encompassing. And I think, when I was coaching, you'd say you do recruiting all year long. I think in this role, you do
everything.
Marketing and sponsorships all year long would be the short answer.
I do love, because there are so many women that need to be spotlighted. And we've seen this with WNBA, when I grew up, what I'm doing now is I love the intermission of the hockey, because they took the helmet off and they interviewed the players. Now sometimes they just do it really quick next to the locker room, but they took them into a different room, and it seemed like this eternity. It's probably only a 2.5 minute interview, but I got to see what they look like, away from the being on the ice, even for a few minutes, a helmet off, get that facial recognition. And so I think for female athletes, it's the same thing. When you get to know them even a little bit, that's what kind of propels things forward.
Oh, absolutely.
A personal connection.
Yeah. And because, again, they're such great people. Our student athletes are, they're incredible hockey players, but, then you find out, we have so much academic success in our league that I think that's the one of the things I've always been proud of as being part of the women's hockey world is they are great students. They volunteer, they work, they do research. So they are just, they have such bright futures in whichever path they choose to take. And that's one thing we've focused on in terms of our social media, is that we're trying to highlight our alumni as well. And again, people who are just doing incredible things. And they reflect on that playing in the WCHA really gave them opportunities to develop life lessons that they now live out. So I think, that's the best part of my job, is just is giving them a platform to really just showcase who they are as people. Mm-hmm. And again, great athletes, incredibly talented hockey players, but they're really diverse in their skill sets.
Away from the ice, away from hockey, what do you do to kind of decompress? Because that sounds like a lot that you do, that you have to sometimes just get away from it. What does Michelle do?
I love to golf, but I'm definitely a fair weather golfer, and so the heat and the rain have been foes.
That's so brutal this year.
But I golf as much as I can. Play in a women's league on Thursdays. Pickleball.
You succumbed.
I'm all in. Yeah. It's addicting. I love that. I love hiking. I love walking my dog. That's my dog is one of my favorite outlets.
Her
name is Maeve. Mavis. Yeah, a good Irish name right there for you.
Yeah, and what kind of dog?
She's a German Shepherd, black lab.
Oh.
So she's and can't walk her enough. You cannot tire her.
Let's go.
Yeah, the heat, the rain. She's a trooper. So, I love those things. I love to travel. I'm going home to Toronto this week to get to see my family. So, and just spend as much time with family and friends as I can. We kind of go into hibernation mode once the season starts.
Mm-hmm. Amen.
And once, and which I love, like, I mean, I love obviously my job,
Yeah.
but I also love the balance that the off season provides. So, like everyone else, like the Bears, I come out in spring and try to reconnect with the people in my life.
Yeah, you need some sanity, levity. You need to get away from. I think you talked about the mental health of the players, coaches, administration, commissioners. You all need to take that old advice too.
Oh, absolutely. And I think, I think they do. I think, and I see it in our coaches. They know when to work, but they also take the time that they need. And just, again, we have a lot of flexibility over our off seasons, and that's nice. And that's one thing that I've enjoyed this year, is that it's been a productive off season. We've done a lot that we can, that is going to, I think, position ourselves to be really strong in this year as a league. But then that's been balanced out by having some flexibility too.
Well, if you are a sponsor out there and you want to sponsor WCHA, you know who to call. Michelle's ready to take your phone call.
Yep. Email's on the website. Check us out.
And before I let you go, what would be your maybe parting words for anyone listening that has maybe occasionally watched a women's hockey game? What can you tell them about the WCHA and why they should watch this year?
Yeah, it's the best college hockey conference in the country. We've won 22 out of 24 national championships. And, we've won, I think, 5 consecutive national championships. So our league produces the best, champions. And, and this year, especially, is such a great year for women's hockey, being an Olympic year. And we have some of the most highly touted potential draft picks for the 2026 PWHL draft. So there's so much to brag about. And the game is fast, it's skilled, it's smart, it's competitive, and women's hockey is growing. So if you're a Frost fan, and there's a lot of Frost fans who are new to hockey because of the Frost.
Yes.
Well, if you want to see the future Frost players and the future PWHL stars, take a look at the WCHA, because we have 8 schools, across 6 in Minnesota, with Minnesota and Wisconsin, or with Wisconsin and Ohio State being our out-of-state team. So it's just incredible talent.
Well, Michelle McAteer, Commish Mac, if you will, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Don.
I look forward to even diving in. I've always loved WCHA hockey and just women's hockey in general, but I look forward to diving a little bit more. Thank you.
Thank you.